Welcome to another episode of the MiamiHal Real Estate Show, where every week I have great guests on and we interact with them to give you incredible information about the real estate market and fields related. So I remind everybody, you've got a social media box in front of you, and if this show is being played back live, you're welcome to type in a question or a comment, and we'll try to get to those as we go through the show. But today I have a great person, Joe Perez. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Hal.
Appreciate that. You are here, and you're going to bring to us a topic that actually I think is overdue on the show. We're going to talk about claims when people have a problem with their home and how they can take care of them properly.
Indeed.
And you have a company that you started called ClaimsAdvisor.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
ClaimsAdvisor.com. Very briefly, it grew out of my public adjuster practice. I'm a licensed public adjuster in the state of Florida. And years ago, I realized that the clients that I served were never, ever prepared to undergo filing a claim.
Let me interrupt you. When something happens to my home or to friends' homes, typically we're clueless. We don't want to have to deal with it, and when it does happen, it's a bit of a shock.
It is.
And so it's nice to hear there's a company out there that might be able to help us, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right?
Exactly. Well, what I've done in ClaimsAdvisor, again, my experience with real-life clients, I've created a very simple-to-use three-step process that allows a residential or commercial property insurance policyholder to be prepared. Part of the whole secret of filing a claim is you have to be prepared because the insurance company policy requires you to prove what has been damaged and what is the reason that it was damaged. So in ClaimsAdvisor.com, in plain and simple language, we educate the policyholder on how to become prepared and safely store their photo inventory, important documents, including the policy, in our cloud securely. Then the other part of the service is when something does happen, which again cannot be foreseen, it could be a kitchen fire, it could be a theft in a warehouse. Of course, the hurricanes get the headlines, and they're very, very troubling, needless to say.
Sure.
But when anything happens that affects the property, residential or commercial, the policyholder goes to their app, their dashboard, if you will, hits a red claim alert, and within 30 minutes, our office contacts that stricken policyholder. The service is absolutely free, both for residential and commercial policyholders.
Did you say free?
It is free.
I like free. I think a lot of the people listening likes free.
And I designed it from the ground up to serve policyholders and also to serve the public adjuster community, of which there are over 1,500 licensed public adjusters throughout Florida. Now, a couple of points about public adjusters. What we are the conduit between the stricken policyholder and the public adjusters that have been admitted to our roster throughout the state of Florida. We have a group up in the northern part, the central, and of course in South Florida. Being part of our public adjuster roster is a difficult challenge for anyone to enter. We do not sell leads, we do not sell territories. Being part of our roster as a public adjuster is a privilege. So our commitment to our policyholders that are using ClaimsAdvisor now and in the future is when you do have a problem, our system will select the best qualified public adjuster for your property.
So if it's
that's
different,
close to you, that's available and can get to you as soon as possible, because speed of response is very important when you have damages.
So you said best public adjuster for the property that I'm in. So if I'm in a condo, there might be a different public adjuster that's right for the job as opposed to a large single-family home.
Or a high-rise office building or a strip mall, et cetera, because our vetting and pre-qualification process before a public adjuster is admitted to our roster in order to serve the clients that have created a profile in ClaimsAdvisor, reflects their history, reflects their qualifications, their education. What work have they done in the past? So, indeed, doing that service for a condo building is quite a bit different, let's say, than a single-family home or a commercial premise.
So not to take you off your sales pitch, because we're going to get through it all today anyway, If I'm a homeowner and I have an insurance company, why do I need to do anything beyond that? I mean, it isn't in a perfect world, I have a policy. I call up when I have something that happened in my home. I have a fire, and I call up the insurance company and I say, "Hey, I just had a fire. I need you guys to come out here and take care of me."
Well, you should do that nevertheless. I
Right.
mean, you should do that as well.
But why do I need anybody else other than the insurance company? They're going to send somebody out and tell me what the claim is for, right?
Indeed, but the individuals that are going to come visit you, the adjusters and the other individuals that an insurance company would send are working for the insurance company. A public adjuster is the advocate and the only advocate for the policyholder, again, residential or commercial. Our license and our entire focus is how can we best serve the interest of the stricken policyholder that complies with the terms of the policy as well as the observed damages, because you've got to have those two elements in order to file a claim and to put forth a credible and acceptable claim to the insurance company. So we're the advocates. We're the advocates for the policyholder, the consumer, and we're the only ones in the market, in the insurance industry, let's say, that can do that.
So it's a great resource, right? So I'm not going it alone, and you guys have seen claims before. So if I tell you I have something that just happened to me, you're going to be able to help me through the process with a lot of expertise.
Indeed.
But you also said it's free. I don't understand how that great a service can be free. How does that work for you as a company?
Of course. ClaimsAdvisor Inc. And the services we offer, which is, again, all of the educational services, the cloud storage service for the policyholder, is absolutely free of charge. There is nothing on the platform that we're going to sell you something later or some other service later. For the policyholder, it is today and will always be free of charge.
Well, congratulations. I like that.
It is. Where our business model, again, makes sense for the policyholder as well as public adjusters, when the claim is settled, the public adjuster will pay an agreed upon fee to our company. At that point in time, which, as you know, a typical homeowner's claim can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months or longer. And certainly a commercial claim can take at least that, usually a lot longer as well. So our business model is aligned with the public adjuster's cash flow. When the insurance company pays the settlement, the public adjuster who has performed the work earns their fee, and they will pay us at that point in time an agreed upon fee to ClaimsAdvisor.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's a nice picture for a consumer. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but we, as a consumer, again, don't care about that. We're getting a service that's really going to help us interface with our insurance carrier and to get a proper claim settlement, right?
Well, yes. Hal, there's a big mystery, and you've raised the question. Why do you need a public adjuster? And let me just address that briefly. The insurance company will send their adjusters and their experts, and they are being compensated, and they work for the insurance company. Again, the public adjuster community is the advocate for the consumer. The two entities can look at a certain damage and arrive at different conclusions. It's called the scope of work.
Yes.
Because under the policy and under construction norms, building codes, etc., the reconstruction of a damaged property has to be in compliance, has to be in conformity with a certain level of quality. If the estimate that comes out from the insurance company adjuster is not at that level, then the policyholder, the consumer, has the assurance that the public adjuster has done their estimate independent of the insurance company and is able to articulate why the scope of work should be X and not Y. And that is something that is typically not communicated to the public at large. Certainly, insurance brokers, agents, and insurance companies do not do a just job, in my experience, of educating their clients as to the whole process of filing a claim and what you need to do to be prepared, which is how I conceived and created ClaimsAdvisor. Because if you're not prepared, and oddly enough, not oddly enough, let's say, curiously enough, the policy requires you to be prepared, but nobody ever reads the policy. It's amazing. Nobody even has the policy that, by and large. So
this is really interesting to me, and I know the answers to a couple of these. I'm asking for you to then educate our audience here.
Sure.
I've been through a couple of claims over the last 10 years, some of which were very easy, some of which were very difficult.
Right.
And so I'm going to have the rest of our conversation with a lot of experience as a consumer as to what can happen and what should happen, and sometimes what happens that shouldn't have happened. But in reality, if it was a perfect insurance company and a claim, you could say, listen, I had this fire damage. They'd come out. Their adjuster would go through the scope of work, put the right price on things, and say, this is the amount. You owe us a deductible, and go get the contracting work done, and we're going to pay it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So you're saying that even if that perfect thing happens, it's still worthwhile, especially because it costs nothing to use your service and your company, to have a public adjuster essentially go on and double check the work that's being done, correct?
Indeed. That's a very valuable part of the service. But the state of Florida published an independent report. This was done by Tallahassee years ago that did a study prior to that time of the effect or the impact to policyholders, whether they used a public adjuster or not. And some of these statistics are certainly available in the public domain, and we quote some on ClaimsAdvisor.com. But to give you two pieces of information, for a catastrophic claim, the difference when a public adjuster was used versus not using a public adjuster, as in your example, was an increase of 747% in compensation. This is published by the state of Florida.
747%, you said.
Yes.
Okay. That's pretty significant.
Right. And for a non-catastrophic claim, your typical day-to-day fire, theft, water damage was 547%. So it more than covers the public adjuster fee, and it creates an estimate. It creates a scope of work that is in compliance with the terms of the policy and is realistic with the cost of the reconstruction. What's happened in the industry over these last year to year and a half, inflation has certainly hit the construction industry. So as we are experiencing now on the West Coast, unfortunately, the cost of rebuilding those homes, certainly those lives, but rebuilding those commercial structures have to be estimated correctly for the future, which will take time to contract and rebuild. If you do it with old data or cost of materials and labor go back 6 months or 12 months ago,
different number.
By the time you get around to building it,
sure,
and by that time the claim is closed. So the consumer has to be very careful because it's public knowledge that the claims department in insurance companies is a profit center. And
they only want to collect their premiums and not pay out.
It's a profit center, let me just say. And by definition, we're all in working with businesses that aim to make profit. But when the claims department has incentives to reach certain corporate goals, then it's possible, let's say, that the work coming out of the claims department, the decisions that would affect the policyholder regarding a certain claim, could be affected that may not be in the interest of the policyholder. So
let's go back a little bit because I want to ask one other question in here. You said your service completely free to us to use, now and forever.
Yes.
You said when we use a public adjuster for a catastrophic event, typically it's over 7 times more money that comes back into the claim
Yes.
than if not using public adjuster.
Correct.
And if it's non-catastrophic, you said 500 some odd percent higher.
Right.
Amazing numbers, right?
It
Who's
is.
paying for the public adjuster?
Well, the public adjuster by Florida law can earn up to 20% of the recovered amount for a non-emergency claim if it is an emergency claim as declared by our governor for the first year after the disaster happened, as we're experiencing on the West Coast now.
Sure.
The public adjuster fee is capped at 10%. That's
Okay.
the law. That's what all of us work under. So
and when you say that it's capped, that's what they're going to charge. They're either going to charge 20
Exactly.
or 10. They're not going to charge 8.
exactly,
Right, okay.
exactly.
So and that is paid for by the insurance company or the consumer that hired the public adjuster?
Well, the consumer is responsible for the fees, just like you would retain a law firm to work on a contingency basis. We work on a contingency basis. So it is the policyholder, to be exact, that executes a services agreement with the public adjuster or the public adjuster firm for the services rendered, to do representation, to prepare the estimates, to negotiate the settlement with the insurance company.
Okay.
So the responsibility lies with the policyholder.
So far, we've talked about how things work in your plan of how claims adjuster can help a consumer.
Right.
But you and I talked about running through a real world example, and I'd like to start off with the case study that you brought for us today. And
I've
then
got
we're
two,
going to talk
actually.
about talk about a couple things that happened to me when I didn't use your service, and we'll get into that as well.
Let me briefly share with you two. One of them
Please.
was a denied claim. The other one was an underpaid claim. Okay, both use ClaimsAdvisor.com. In the denied claim, it was the strangest thing. It was a two-story home, single-family home, that in very heavy rainstorm, the dining room was raining at a certain spot, close to the sliding glass door.
Okay, so this is the dining room on the first level, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Meanwhile, on the second floor above, which was the master bedroom, there wasn't a drop of water. So it was a big mystery. How did the water get from above to the dining room?
And miss the entire second floor.
Correct.
Okay, that's a good mystery.
The client used ClaimsAdvisor, had a photo inventory of the dining room, the chairs, the table, the cabinetry, the carpeting, had everything of the whole house. And this phenomenon started happening. Now, the homeowner also was astute enough that when it was raining heavily during that period of time, this happened a couple of years ago, he took a video of water, literally, if this is the dining room table, of water raining down.
Wow.
And you could see outside the sliding glass door that it was pouring outside. Because originally the insurance company denied the claim. They couldn't find where the claim was, and they said that the roof was intact, that it had to be coming from, the window, faulty workmanship in the construction of the home, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, because we had the before and after evidence,
Sure.
through additional experts that were brought to bear, it was shown that the roof, in fact, had suffered wind damage in a prior windstorm and had just manifested itself at this point in time after a heavy rainstorm. So we were very, very happy that the public adjuster who served this particular client got a full payment for replacing the roof.
Wow.
The other one is
And by the way, the lesson there, because I've heard this many times, water will find its way
Exactly.
no matter what. And it often is a mystery. Like, how did it get from this side of the room to that side of the room, and nothing in the middle is wet?
Exactly, and typically it takes a long time for it to filter down from the roof all the way down, certainly to the second or the first floor in this case, and it can travel mysterious ways.
Yes.
The other one is a homeowner that had a massive theft event happen at their home. Appliances were taken out, furniture, clothing, furs, jewelry. I mean, it was clearly a very well-organized professional theft that happened. They had not saved in ClaimsAdvisor.com any proof of what they own, whether it's the furniture, the appliances, the personal goods, the jewelry, clothing, handbags, ski outfits, you name it. It was gone. It was gone. They had to spend about 4 to 5 months reconstructing everything that they own, calling shops around the world that they had visited and had made purchases, going back through credit card receipts, and reconstructing what would have been already available had they used ClaimsAdvisor.com. At the end of the day, the recovery was 60% thereabouts. So 40%, it was $100,000 plus in damages they suffered. So they left about $40,000 on the table simply because the evidence wasn't there to file the claim on and support the full payment.
So at the beginning and now again, you've said you need before evidence.
Correct.
So that you can then compare it to whatever happens afterwards.
Correct.
Right? I, last night in preparation for our interview, went out and went to your site, saw how easy it was to go and register.
I saw this morning, yes. Thank you.
And it allowed me to upload some photos, which
Right.
I did as an example. How detailed do those photos need to be? What do you suggest to people that want to take advantage of your service? Do they just take pictures of the room and go, that's enough? Or do they have to get down to every single piece of clothing they own, for example?
We have some suggestions, some easy to follow suggestions and tips and know-how and on our sites, one of the tabs. But you basically need 2 to 4 photos of each room. You know, if you take it from one angle, take it from the other. What you want to capture is, for example, do you have carpeting or marble floor? Do you have crown molding? You want to look for those details of, make sure that the photos reflect the materials for the room as well as the contents, the furniture. Do you have an inexpensive couch or an expensive couch? You want to be able to capture that type of information. At any time, certainly feel free to call me directly, call our office, send an email, whatever's convenient, and we're very responsive. We'll get back to you as to any particular questions you have. But in essence, anywhere from 2 to 4, say maximum 6 photos in every room, kitchen, and so forth, is all you really need. The other important thing, Hal, that folks have got to do is they've got to get their policy. Let me tell you very, very quick that all of us as consumers get what's called the declaration pages, which are about 4 to 6 pages that come from either the agent or the carrier. That's not the policy. A homeowner's policy is about 50 pages on average, and a commercial policy is in excess of 100 pages. Yeah. If we don't have the policy before damages happen, it's impossible for the assigned public adjuster to make a quick study of the policy, understand what you have covered and what you don't have covered, and be able to advise you upon that first meeting to do the inspection of damages that you've suffered. It doesn't do you any good to file a claim if your policy doesn't cover it. And if the public adjuster cannot read the policy right away, then you've got to wait usually a week to 10 days for the insurance company to send it to you. Sure. So get the policy.
And one of the things that you have on your website, which I did, was to upload your policy.
Exactly.
Do that beforehand. So you guys are going to have it the minute I say I have a claim, you're already going to be well ahead of the game. And you can send it out to a public adjuster and have them get started.
Because the minute you have a claim alert, we contact you within 30 minutes. You have the policy there. You have the photos before damages. That information goes to that public adjuster. So when you meet face-to-face that same day or the next day, if it's convenient for you, the public adjuster already knows what your coverage is, what your limits are, what exclusions you have, and so forth from the policy, and what the condition of your premise was before damages.
This sounds just too good to be true. And so my question is, are you the only one that does this?
When I conceived this some 5 years ago, I did a lot of research on behalf of my clients as a public adjuster. I didn't find anything, so I went about the business of building this from the ground up. In fact, we have a utility process patent pending.
That's why I asked the question. So you could say that.
That we're optimistic that we'll have it issued from the U.S. Patent Office. But the system works regardless. It would just be a great point of pride for us to have it issued. but it is a patent pending on how the back end works, and the speed by which it works, and the computations that happen in that crucial time between your claim alert and when a public adjuster gets the information and is able to materially start providing services. That whole part, which I designed from the ground up, is what the patent pending is all about. But yes, to this date, some 5 years later, there is no service at all in the United States like this, and our plan is once Florida is well up and going, that we can take our service to the Gulf Coast states that seem to have quite a bit of natural disasters over the last few years, through Texas, eventually to California, and then the Midwest, Tornado Alley, and at least focus on those key parts of our country that need to be prepared.
Makes sense. We have just enough time, I think, to go through something that happened to me 10 years ago.
Go ahead.
So I had a single family home. The cast iron pipes went bad. And I called my insurance company, which was a good named insurance carrier, and they started asking questions. And I also, of course, when this started to happen, told friends and family. And most of my friends and family said, you need to call an attorney right away. You're going to have a problem with your insurance carrier. And I kind of made a decision after a couple of days of thinking about it, which is, why would I make a claim and then basically put my fists up to defend against the insurance carrier when they haven't done anything that I feel is negative? And so how would you just generally look at that situation? Would you have recommended a public adjuster or an attorney or both, or something right off the start?
Well, the beginning of the process is you got to notify your insurance company that you've had a loss. You're required to by the policy, and it's in your interest to give prompt notice. You can do it yourself. You can have your public adjuster do it for you. But that's the beginning of the claim process.
Right. Okay.
To reach out to an attorney, as you well judged, you were given, if you will, perhaps some good but not the best advice, would have been premature, because you're taking it to a litigation basis without the justification for filing lawsuit.
Right.
That's what attorneys do.
Right.
A public adjuster has the construction skills and the abilities to value the damages, put it in a form that is acceptable to the industry, and negotiate the claim on your behalf. If the public adjuster gets to a deadlock, then, as I do in my practice, and we all do, we can refer it to a lawyer that you would choose, working for you, that you would hire, who deals in first-party claims to represent you. And the public adjuster, as I do, continues to provide litigation support throughout that process. But that's only in an extreme case, as a measure of last resort, if you will.
So let's talk about that extreme case. Of the clients and cases that you've been on with your company, what percentage of them ever get to that stage?
10% of the claims that I'm handling directly as a public adjuster, I'm not able to reach a satisfactory settlement with the insurance company, and the client has decided to seek legal counsel and then further prosecute the claim.
And of those that do get ultimately settled, is it typically that the consumer prevails, or is the insurance company prevail?
Consumer prevails, because at least in my practice, and I can certainly speak for the quality public adjusters that are in our roster, we prepare a claim very, very meticulously, so that if we're ever faced with a situation where we have to litigate it, we have the proofs. And again, it's a matter of proofs, before the damages, after the damages, and having the file professionally and properly prepared, so that if the insurance company, for whatever reason, decides not to pay, that a lawyer can prosecute the claim.
Joe Perez, ClaimsAdvisor.com is the place. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Hal. I appreciate it. Thanks for hosting us today.
And to our audience, if you want to get in touch with him, ClaimsAdvisor.com. He is handling things, at least with me, directly, and I'm sure he'll be in touch with you. Until next week, when we bring up another great topic that's real estate related, we'll see you. Have a good one.
Take care.